Welcome to the Green Bay Football Show. My name is John Dodds. Today's topic, the Green Bay Packer Draft. Our show is sponsored by Business Fitness. Thanks to Dave Heineck, a valued sponsor of our show. Here is more about Business Fitness.
We weave NetSuite into the DNA of your business. There are many threads in your organization. Over time, some become tangled. When NetSuite is woven in as your primary business system, the overall fabric becomes smoother, stronger, and more flexible. We at Business Fitness are a NetSuite success agency. With decades of NetSuite experience across hundreds of clients ranging from 3 users to billion-dollar enterprises, we love what we do. Whether we're helping you implement NetSuite for the first time or helping you improve how it works for your company, our focus is our relationship with you and ensuring you get the most from your software. It all starts by us listening. We get to know you and your organization. We seek to understand the good things you are committed to accomplishing. And together, we create an amazing tapestry, one that serves your entire company, allowing you and your business to thrive at this unique moment in history. This is possible because we're an ambidextrous organization. We see the big picture and the details, enabling us to serve you in both creative and strategic ways. Contact us now to schedule a conversation. We'd love to help you weave NetSuite into the DNA of your business.
Thanks again to Dave Heineck at Business Fitness for their sponsorship, making this show possible. Our first guest is Chad Ryder from NFL.com. I'll ask Chad about the draft.
Tight end wise, going back to that, they have Tunyon obviously, and Dominique Daphne, a couple of guys in there, DeGuara, but there seems to be some upside to Tyler Davis, that the Packers are enthused about his potential. How do you see this young man?
Well, I mean, I see it too. It's just a matter of whether he gets playing time. If Daphne is, there's going to be a competition there this summer, right? So we're going to have to see how the preseason plays out. If Tunyon, I don't know how healthy he's going to be. So it's going to be a mix of all these injuries and opportunities and all this stuff to see if he can step up. Elise Mack has some potential coming out of Notre Dame a couple of years ago too. So they signed him. There's a lot of bodies there, and we'll see how the offense works, how they're going to work with the running backs, if Kylan Hill, who showed a lot preseason last year as running back, if he's healthy, if they're going to try to get him more touches out of the backfield. And so they have a lot of options with this offense, and we'll see how they use all the different options in the summer.
I think the hope for Davis at tight end would be, could he become what they thought Jay Sternberger was going to become? Because he's kind of has that same long lean, and he seems to be able to get up the seam.
Yeah, that would be great if he can fill that role. It's too bad that Jace didn't. That injury he suffered in the training camp at the practice, it really threw him off, unfortunately. But you have these inter team scrimmages like that, and a guy gets hurt. Lonnie Johnson's not welcome in Green Bay, I tell you that.
What do you think of the Packers' move to get a new punter? It probably didn't shock you. Did it in part because of the struggles of Mason Crosby? And getting that punt blocked, right, against the Niners. That was it.
Yeah, and Pat O'Donnell's a good veteran holder. They needed a snapper, holder, everything else to make sure Mason Crosby's at his best. I expect he'll have a bounce back year. O'Donnell's good at putting it in the coffin corner. So that was a good pickup for them, and hopefully it'll be the same as when the Packers signed Adrian Amos at safety from the Bears and let them have Quinn Dix.
I interviewed John Ryan when he was he left Green Bay, the punter, and he went to Seattle. And nobody was talking to him in the locker room. So I went up to him and I said, when you're holding, what is Ryan Longwell like in terms of spinning the ball? What is he like? And he said, he likes it when the laces face toward the goalpost or to him, because the heaviest part of the ball, if it is the laces, and if it's on the outside, it tends to drift. And I was watching when CBS or Fox would zoom in, you could tell that when Mason Crosby missed his field goals, it's because the laces were spun the wrong way to the outside or to either side, and it just drifted out. And Crosby's too classy of a guy to point fingers. Other kickers wouldn't. Other kickers would be pointing down and saying that. But is that what you saw too?
Yeah, and every kicker is a little different. Some of them don't want to see the laces; they want that outside. And some guys don't mind it; they want to see those because they know that the ball flight's going to be correct when they make contact. So it's mental. It's like golf. It's been said many times, but kicking is much like golf, where everybody's got their little idiosyncrasies, and it's really personal preference. And if you're not in the right headspace, it's tough to convert those things. So, but I suspect Crosby will be back just as he has before when he's had a rough year. He comes back the next year, they figure it out, and he'll have another solid year for him.
Chad Ryder, NFL.com. He is outstanding, much like the high irons, Chad, that John Dodds hits on the golf course. But you give the Packers an A in the draft. I'm excited about that coming from you. There's cred. How about the rest of the teams in the NFC North? Did anyone significantly gain? We had someone on, like you, very well respected, Colin Lindsay, great Blue North draft report.
Mm-hmm.
He just said the Vikings maybe had the worst draft in the whole league.
Well, I love Colin. I've known him for many years, but I thought that, the Vikings, maybe you didn't like the players he took, but certainly they grabbed some picks from their division rivals, right? I mean, they were accumulating picks to try to continue to build that roster. So, I liked what they did in a lot of their drafts. Sean was a good player for them, safety. And I like some of the guys they got a little bit lower in the draft. They didn't have a ton of, Andrew Booth, I thought was a great pick in the second round. I thought they might take him in the first, and they might have if not for some injuries. So I liked what the Vikings did in a lot of spots. Detroit, look, you're picking second overall in every round. You should have a good draft, and they did. They
got to hit sooner or later, right?
Well, yeah, and then you trade away your franchise quarterback for a first-round pick. It ends up being the last pick in the first round because they won the Super Bowl. But you got to hit on some of these guys, and I thought they did a good job. I thought the Bears did solid value. They didn't take any players out of range that I thought they would be selected. So the Bears were fine too, but a lot of their draft obviously is dependent on what Justin Fields does as a quarterback, and I believed in Justin a little bit more than some other folks did. So I think if the coaching's right now in Chicago, that might actually turn out to be a pretty good pick for them.
Yeah, I love his competitive nature, and he seems to have the makeup to play quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Did the Bears do much to help him in the draft, though? Chad?
Well, they helped the offensive line by getting a couple of guys to give them depth, which is good. They needed that. But then Velus Jones, I liked out of Tennessee, a receiver, third round. Antonio Freeman could be. I mean, very much. Again, like I was saying before, you don't want to reach for that receiver. You don't want to reach for that guy. So with their second-round picks, they hit another area of their team that really needed help in the secondary. And with Green Bay trading up ahead of them to get Watson, and a lot of the other receivers that were picked in the top 50, I wouldn't necessarily have picked them in the top 50. So, but Chicago could have picked Sky Moore, the wide receiver, to help things out. That could have helped. But the guys they picked are really good value, and the back end of their secondary was really not great, and they just didn't have very many bodies there. So they got two starters in Garden and Brisker. So I thought that made a lot of sense for them.
When it comes to evaluating drafts, I've noticed a couple things over the years. First of all, if you have the highest picks or many picks, you'll get rated really well. That's why it seems like the Jets and Detroit always have really, really top drafts. The other thing is always stay away from a draft expert just after the draft because they're tired, they're irritable, they've just gone 4 days working really hard. It's been looking at all the scouting reports, talking to all the experts the month before. Just give them a day or two to decompress, and then.
I don't see Chad Ryder as irritable. I'm sorry. I don't get that. I think no.
Let me tell you, that Sunday. I'm glad I didn't talk to you guys on that Sunday. I got it back together by Monday because I had a slew of interviews, last week. But Sunday is a day of rest, and then you start in the 2023 draft on Monday, right? That's how it works. So
right.
it's a
stops.
month-a-year thing nowadays.
That's what you great ones do.
Well, and looking at the Packer draft, the two players at the top, it seems like when I've interviewed players in the locker rooms over the years, it's you force the most mistakes if you can disguise defenses. Mm-hmm. And Rodgers and Brady, they've seen it all. You can't disguise it. But there might be a rookie tight end or a rookie wide receiver where if the safety's lining up somewhere, they're key, they'll run the wrong route or a different route. And it seems like when you have Walker or Wyatt, or you have the ability to line them up on different ends or blitz up the A gap like Barr did at Minnesota in his prime, White does at Tampa. If you can get pressure up the A gaps in the quarterback's face, that'll they're getting rid of the ball on a 3-step drop anyway, but it messes with them a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, like I mentioned too, that's why the twists and stunts are important inside too, right? Because if you have guys like Clark and Wyatt who can take their guys outside, take those guards outside, and try to take up actually the guard and tackle on the side, right? You loop in your edge rusher, or you're sending Walker or Campbell, whoever they want to send inside. It really makes life more difficult for offenses to deal with that sort of versatility in your personnel and in your scheme.
This 2023 draft coming up, people are already talking about it. It could be one of the best drafts of all time. The top 10, just elite players at multiple positions. You could have.
All right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. It's going to be fun. I mean, I have started in on it. There's a number of really, really good players. But look, everybody. Hey, let's wait till next year, and then this is going to be great, and this is going to be great. But by the time, look, Bryce Young from Alabama, outstanding quarterback, didn't play great at times during the year, but came on at the end of the year, won a Heisman, good for him. People are going to say, oh, he's going to be great, he's great. Then they put him in measuring tape, and he's going to be like 5'10", right? And so then people are going to rip him for that. So, let's temper expectations a little bit, but there are some fine quarterbacks coming. There's some fine running backs coming. There is some things to be, happy about and looking forward to for sure. But I just want to get to the season first. Let's get to the season first and see how these guys play this year, and then we'll worry about that. I'm just happy I'm not asked to do a mock draft for 2023 the day after. That I feel bad for Todd McShay having to do that. I'll tell you that.
Chad, you were a rookie at one time evaluating before you became a superstar in the biz. What are the biggest lessons that you have learned in evaluating players?
Well, you learn lessons no matter how old you are, no matter how dumb or how long you are, how dumb you are. Yeah, that makes sense. How long you've done it for, you learn lessons every year, right? And in the end, I really think you have to trust your process. And whether that's looking at film a certain way or looking at data or whatever, trying to block out the noise, because there's a lot of noise that goes on. And every year I go back and I say, oh, I listened to too much noise, right? And you try to be, accurate and all that, but in the end, everybody is wrong about something. That's just the bottom line. I've done a lot of studying of historic mock drafts. And anybody who does this for a living is going to be wrong, dead wrong about a lot. But then you look at some teams' picks and you figure, oh, well, they don't always do the best job either. So I guess we're just all human. And so you just have to trust your own process, what you believe about these players, and let things sort out after that.
You talked about Jordan Love before. Did you hear any buzz about a potential Jordan Love trade at all? Were there discussions at all? I didn't hear much about that.
Not this year, no, because if the quarterback class had been more highly valued by teams and they had gone earlier in the draft and somebody was left out, then there might have been a little more. But since teams got the quarterbacks pretty much wherever they wanted them, there was really no need for a team to go out and get Jordan at this point in the process. That's really going to come in the summer when injuries happen and some guys don't play as well as they want. Then he becomes maybe a little more higher value for other teams.
Last question for me is, any of the non-drafted rookies, anybody stick out to you for the Packers we should maybe watch out for? I know the Journal today mentioned that there was a wide receiver by the name of Kiki Chisholm that came out of Missouri that actually had a good opening weekend. He's one of those guys that wasn't as productive in college as you would have liked to have seen, but he's one of those traits guys that could turn into something.
But like Tyler Goodson, the running back from Iowa, getting him as an undrafted free agent was fantastic. I liked Raleigh Tejada from TCU, transferred around, but he's one of these little guys that's really tough, and I just want to see him in the slot. I want to see him working hard. And guys like Shamar Jean Charles, who they picked last year, didn't really get an opportunity this year either. So he's one of these guys that's almost like an undrafted free agent because he's going to step up. Cole Schneider, the offensive lineman from UCF, kind of a Josh Sitton vibe for him. Very, very interesting, tough guy in the middle, interesting player. And Akil Byers, the defensive lineman from Missouri. Not the big, he's like a 290. He's a perfect five tech where he's not like the most athletic guy. He's not the biggest guy, but he's going to work hard on every play. He's going to use his leverage to move his offensive lineman back. So I'm really interested to see what kind of backup role he could play for that team this year.
Chad, I'd just like to ask you about two of the free agents, just looking at the wide receiver Danny Davis out of Wisconsin. For Badgers fans, could he stick or does he have a future in the NFL? And the offensive tackle, my goodness, 6'9", 370, Caleb Jones out of Indiana, assuming he can even move, could he be a player?
Yeah, his movement skills are lacking, but, it's funny. People talked about this with Daniel Fa'alele from Minnesota, right? 6'9", 380. In terms of recovery from an edge rusher who goes outside then spins inside, a little tougher. But the guy with Jones as well is very similar. Like you mentioned earlier, quarterbacks are getting rid of the ball more quickly. So you don't need somebody to necessarily block for 5-6 seconds all the time. What you need is that guy who's got the length and the size to hold that guy up when the first few seconds, let the ball go, and then go from there. And, of course, as a run blocker as well. So, I think Jones and Davis has got the athleticism you want, obviously. Catching the balls can be an issue for him at times. But he's flashed throughout his career. Every year at Wisconsin, I watch him. I'm like, oh, this is the year he's going to turn it on. This is the year he's going to turn it on. And just really never happened, partially because of the passing game wasn't great in Wisconsin at times. So I think it's partially opportunity. So it wouldn't shock me if he made it on special teams this year, stuck on the practice squad, and kind of worked himself up over the next couple of years. And we've seen that with other players over time. A receiver that comes up in the middle of the year and makes a few plays, and the next year he gets more of a chance at camp.
Chad, you're incredible at what you do. Chad Ryder, NFL.com draft analyst, and I can tell that you're so full of passion. That smile is there, and there's no greater blessing than that. Tell people how they can get to your work, please.
If you go to NFL.com, you can see all my stuff. I have an author page. You can find that and find all my stuff from last draft, discover how wrong I was. I was right about a few things, so that's good. But that's where the stuff is. For this summer, I'm kind of underground working on next year's draft stuff, so I won't have a lot of stuff. But in the fall, NFL.com, I'll be doing stuff. Last year, I did a bi-weekly update on Senior Bowl prospects, so I don't know if they'll be doing that again or not. But I'm sure they'll have me writing something when football season starts again.
Thank you to Chad Ryder from NFL.com. We'll continue our talk about the Green Bay Packer draft with Colin Lindsay from the Great Blue North Draft Report. Thanks again to Business Fitness and Dave Heineck, a valued sponsor of our show. The 2022 draft was strong in certain positions, but not in the top 20. The 2023 draft looks like it could be the mother lode because there could be 8 quarterbacks in the top 50, it looks like.
Oh, absolutely. We got 350 days to go here. And
You're already preparing, though, aren't you, Colin?
Oh, yeah. No, I normally tell my guys, listen, okay, we're what are we, May 10th here. I want everyone to take the rest of the month off. And we'll come back on June 1st and we'll go crazy. And I'm the one who really does. But boy, every night I just start working on 2023, and finally my partner has to say stop. Wait till June the 1st. But yeah, no, it looks like a really, really potential special draft. You have a whole bunch of really good quarterbacks, and I think in many ways that's why. You had teams passing on this year's quarterbacks that they didn't want to get tied to one guy this year. And anybody who needs a quarterback next year is going to get a shot at one. You have Stroud from Ohio State and Young from Alabama. You have Van Dyke at Miami, who's a top 5 kid and would be probably be being talked about as a top 1 too if it wasn't for those 2 guys. And then you got a whole bunch of guys right behind them. You're going to need a program to tell where they are. Spencer Rattler's at South Carolina now, and Keaton Slovis is at Pittsburgh, and Caleb Williams, who's not draft eligible, he's now out at Southern California. One guy that I think people really should keep an eye on is Cameron Ward. He's playing at Washington State this year, but he was a record-setting quarterback at Incarnate Wood. There actually is a college football team called Incarnate Wood. He was just a really good player. But again, there are a dozen really good prospects at quarterback for next year, which probably tells us it's going to be a really interesting year in college football, period. And then you get away from the quarterbacks. You have Will Anderson of Alabama, who John mentioned. People talking about him as being the best pure prospect to come along in a long time. He's a really special player. You have Smith Nagiba at Ohio State was the number 1 wide receiver at a school that had kids picked 10th and 11th overall this year. You have a couple of really good cornerbacks in Eli Ricks, who's at Alabama this year, Kelly Ringo of Georgia. You have Jalen Carter, the tackle that John mentioned, who was a better player than either Jordan Davis or Devontae Wyatt. You also have Bossis, the kid at Clemson, who's just as good a defensive tackle, maybe even a little bit better prospect. You get some terrific offensive linemen. It's going to be a good year for offensive linemen. Just a really interesting year coming up in 2023, and bodes well for the college football season coming up this year.
Colin, if you don't mind, I want to ask you to extend your stay just for this question. Of the rest of the teams in the NFC North, who made the biggest jump draft-wise on the pack?
Well, I don't think anybody closed the gap significantly. The one team that had a really nice draft is Detroit. I'm not sure whether good drafts have ever done them any good at all. I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for Detroit. I mean, no team can be that down that long, and you kind of like to see them, come up. I mean, they have a loyal fan base there. They have nice uniforms, but they got Hutchinson in with the 2nd pick overall. I think he was a much better prospect than Trayvon Walker was. I mean, he's going to come in and help change the culture there. They got a real steal, I think, in Jamison Williams. If he's healthy, they have a real legitimate playmaker there. So they did really well. Chicago didn't have a first rounder. They're paying off the Dodds thing. The Fields thing. Sorry, I'm reading John Dodge's name on the camera there. The pick of Fields last year. We'll see how that works out. It's a team that needed wide receivers. They needed help at the offensive line, and they took defensive players in the 2nd round. I'm not sure how much that helps them. And I am still trying to figure out what the heck the guy at Minnesota was thinking in this draft. I mean, they had maybe the worst draft in this whole draft. They traded out of the 12th spot, gave Detroit, a divisional rival, a shot at Jamison Williams. They had a shot at Kyle Hamilton there. Instead, they ended up with Lewis Sine, of another Georgia kid. He's a good player, but I don't think he's anywhere near the player that Lewis Sine is. And they didn't get anything in return for moving all the way to the bottom of the 1st round. I think they ended up with basically a third rounder out of it. If they'd gotten a 1st rounder for next year, you could say, okay, good deal. And then, of course, they traded the thing that still boggles my mind. I mean, the one team you have to beat are the Packers, and the one team the one thing the Packers needed was a wide receiver like Christian Watson. So Minnesota says, "Hey, why don't you take our second round pick and you can take your." I mean, it was bizarre. They moved all over the board. They came up with nothing. I don't think they'd helped their team at all. And there are a couple of the strange drafts. England had a strange draft. New Orleans had a strange draft. But I'm not sure anybody had a stranger draft than Minnesota did. When you count what they did for the other teams in their division, just really odd. We'll see how it all plays out in the end. But certainly that one had me shaking my head.
Colin Lindsay, Great Blue North Draft Report, always informative, and he can be entertaining as well. We just appreciate you so much. In closing, if you can direct people, please, as to how they can get this incredible work that you do.
Well, we're at the gbnreport.com. We're there every day reporting on the news. And as I say, my colleague in crime, Pigskin Paul Guimet, is still working away on last year's draft. And Larry Parker and I, our chief scout, we're already deep into next year's draft. And we want to keep it going. And so, as I say, we're there, 365 days a year covering the draft.
Thanks, Colin, for always taking the time and going above and beyond. A big thank you to Colin Lindsay from the Great Blue North Draft Report for appearing on our show. People are saying a lot of great things about Business Fitness, our sponsor. Here is one of them.
NetSuite is a very powerful software. If you want to really have your business run on NetSuite, and that's our goal, then it brings in a lot of very specialized and somewhat esoteric functionality. So you really need a great deal of expertise in order to implement it appropriately. And Business Fitness brings that for us and helps us to take off-the-shelf modules and customize them for our needs. Business Fitness definitely helps you avoid a lot of very serious problems that can arise once you've started entering data into NetSuite, into a specific module, or just in terms of the general platform. Business Fitness really has exceeded our expectations in terms of listening to our needs and desires.
Well, that's our show for this week. A big thank you to Colin Lindsay from the Great Blue North Draft Report, as well as Chad Ryder from NFL.com. If you want to see an archive of this Green Bay football show, please visit our website, marquettehoops.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, a subsidiary of CBS Sports Digital. Go to the front page where we have our shows archived, and if you know of any other Green Bay or Marquette fans who might live outside our Channel 24 viewing area, please forward the show to them via email. In future shows, we'll follow the OTAs and minicamp because the Packers season goes 24/7. Thanks to our sponsor, Business Fitness, and Dave Heineck. Until next week, go Pack.